All right, welcome to Afterthought. This is the visual companion to the System Mastery Podcast, where the podcast talks about the specific, we talk about the generals. This week we talked about Heroes Unlimited, the tabletop role-playing game. So this week on Afterthought, we're just talking about superheroes in general. I'm your host, Jonathan Taylor, and my guest host this week is Jake Araujo.
Hi.
So I have a list of topics that we can discuss, and I've got 10 of them. So in true nerd fashion, we will roll a d10 and figure out what we're talking about.
10.
If you could write one comic book, what would you write, and what would the plot be?
Okay.
So, Marvel, DC, Vertigo, whoever comes up to you says, you know what, we love your stuff, we want you to write a comic book. Who do you want to write? What do you want to write?
Okay, first thing we need to do is, this needs to be Vertigo, because I need to be able to use any and all plot and language elements that I see fit. Second, I want to take an idea that doesn't usually get a lot of play and give it play. So, I have a number of ideas. What comes to mind immediately is, have the main character be basically a witch. Not like, I'm a sexy witch, just like, no. Because you have historically, like, okay, I'm a character, I have magic, I'm a wizard. Right, you have, Doctor Strange, you have Dr. Fate, you have this kind of character. Dr. Strangelove, Dr. Orpheus, you have all these characters, and when you have a witch, it's always Enchantress, or they're always villains, they're always using their sex appeal as villainy, they're always doing that. I want to have a character who is a wizard, except that she's a witch.
Okay.
So that's my main character.
So you wouldn't do an established run of something. Like, you wouldn't say,
I
absolutely
want to take
over
would.
For, like,
Hellblazer
would. Or something.
You know what, I would... Not Hellblazer, certainly. I don't think I could do it justice, for one thing. I don't know enough about the deeper parts of the lore. I would take Wonder Woman, I would take Superman. I would not take Batman, I would take Batgirl, just for the chance to get Cassandra Cain back, and repeal all the horrible character assassination that's gone on there. But if I'm doing my own thing, I want to take an archetype that always gets shit on and actually rehabilitate it somewhat within the industry, just because let's rehabilitate parts of the industry that we don't like.
Yeah. I think I would do Spider-Man.
Okay.
The crux of it, though, would be Carnage, because I love Carnage, and nobody else does.
Dude, I would read your Carnage book. I will not read most Carnage books. They usually do it so poorly.
And that's my problem with it, is the idea of the serial killer. I mean, in the same way that I feel like everyone loves Joker.
Right.
Because you have this insane serial killing character, and Carnage, I feel like, is what Marvel really wanted to get a Spider-Man's Joker with Carnage, because they wanted someone that was an insane killer.
If that's the case. Joker, the point of Joker isn't that he's an insane killer. Sometimes he is. No. Sometimes he's not. Joker is always like this embodiment of chaos. He's not so much, I'm a supervillain, as he is an avatar of destruction. He's Nyarlathotep Gotham style.
And when Carnage was first introduced in the comics, that was actually what he said his entire reason for being was. He thought there were no rules, you can do whatever you want, chaos is the way the world should be.
He's running around, he read, some Nietzsche and decided to go apeshit. I like this idea.
Yeah, and the story specifically that I've had in mind for years now, because I'm not above thinking of fan fiction in my head.
Who is?
Carnage, the symbiote, gets separated from Cletus Cassidy.
Okay.
And actually gets out into the city, and it's Spider-Man trying to find the symbiote, because the symbiote is slowly corrupting people with the thoughts of a serial killer.
Right.
So you have this dual, like, Spider-Man outside of his element trying to be sort of Batman-y and trying to
be a detective.
Trying to find out what's going on,
right.
Figure out the clues. And you can even have a nice Silence of the Lambs bit where he has to talk to Cletus.
See, now that I like. You have Cletus behind the glass,
Yeah.
Well, hello, Parker.
Yeah. It'd be this great dynamic between the two of them. And then the symbiote itself, you have this human element of him, getting onto some, like, business guy, someone who, like, has a hot dog cart. but doesn't realize he has the symbiote on him, but has this voice in the back of his head that keeps telling him all of these things about, like, you know, your family doesn't love you, your job is meaningless, you need to kill people. And then the symbiote gets onto it.
Right. I was going to say, so the symbiote is like their depression manifesting itself? Okay, I get you.
No, and I think that would be a really good way to make both the symbiote and Cletus shine, in a way.
Absolutely. You have Cletus on his own, without the suit. He has to be back to whatever he was like before. You know, he was just a killer with a knife or whatever. He doesn't have the symbiote to make him all amazing and shoot blood ropes everywhere.
All right, roll another one.
All right.
Let's do at least one more.
That's fair. 3.
What, on almost the same topic, what is your favorite hero or comic storyline? It doesn't have to be from comic books.
Okay.
You know, it could be maybe like a movie or something else. But your favorite superhero storyline.
I'm going to probably go the low-hanging fruit and go for No Man's Land. This is one of the best story arcs in recent comic history, and it's recent because it's 15 years ago, but, you know.
Recent to old people.
It's not Silver Age. So No Man's Land is Gotham City experiences a devastating earthquake, and everything goes to hell, and the government declares it a no man's land. Everyone who stays in Gotham will be living in literal anarchy until they can, such a time as they can go in and establish control. So everyone pretty much gets out of Gotham except for the criminal scum, the diehards, and a few of the cops who were there basically forming a gang called the Blues, trying to keep order. So if you're like, you know, oh, I'm with Two-Face's gang, and we're like opening up banks, and it's great fun. Oh, don't go over there though. That's Blues territory. They'll mess you up, which is really cool to see. Because you have like Bullock and Montoya being complete hardasses, and that, you know, Gordon, of course, and that's great to see. You have all kinds of great characters running around in the town. Batman, you know, gets to try and stop everything from going to hell. Bruce Wayne, of course, is said to have fled the city. But you have Huntress there, and he makes her Batwoman basically for a few minutes, and then she fucks it up because she's Huntress, and so he ends up giving it to Cassandra Cain, which is awesome because she's one of my favorites. You've got Poison Ivy takes over Gotham Central Park, you know, equivalent. Clayface is running around just sort of ruling the sewers. You know, well, him and Croc. It's a really interesting thing that they do with the setting. You have sort of the B-list villains like Penguin, like Riddler, who are just way in over their head, and they're like, you know, I don't think I like this.
Well, yeah, and I think a storyline like that really takes the focus away from Batman, or even specifically villains, and like you said, it puts it on Gotham as a setting.
Right. Which is just fantastic to see. Because we're used to, okay, it's Gotham, it has Gothic architecture, and, you know, a lot of sort of Art Deco stuff going on, very, very 30s, which, of course, that's when Batman was written, and so it's always going to have that lovely Art Deco, sort of Gothic setting. But it's not just architecture in this, it's actually a setting, a living, breathing setting, where it matters what borough you're in after dark, certainly.
Yeah.
Which is cool to see.
Favorite hero storyline for me...
Death of Superman.
the death and return of Superman.
No.
Yeah. I'm probably gonna have to go with a one-shot.
Okay.
My favorite thing, and it's also one of the very first comics I ever got, was a What If. I started, the very first comics I ever bought were
we should
Marvel's
have
What Ifs.
We should have one of these just about What Ifs and Elseworlds.
Oh, God, I love alternate universes and ridiculous storylines because you can do whatever the hell you want.
Right.
Which is why it's one of my favorite stories of, if there's, I don't know why I'm on a symbiote kick, but it's what if the original symbiote never got separated from Peter Parker.
Okay.
So he's in the church, and normally the church bells, the sonic vibrations separate the symbiote from him.
Right.
In this one, he waits too long, and it's already sort of bonded with him, and he can't get it off.
Okay.
And in
that's kind of a problem for Peter.
Yeah. that was the whole issue with Venom, is he just couldn't get it off.
Right.
So so this comic has Peter Parker bonds with the suit. The suit ends up draining his life essence and essentially leaves him an old man. He's like 70 years old.
So he becomes Uncle Ben?
Pretty much.
Okay.
he just becomes this sort of replacement. I think the very end he ends up meeting Aunt May, and no, they do not have any sort of relationship.
That's good. We don't want that Back to the Future, Leah Thompson, Oedipus thing.
But
Okay.
and then the symbiote like leaves him, and it ends up like jumping on the Incredible Hulk. So you have like Hulk
Jesus.
venom. But then the suit drains all of the like radioactivity out of him, so it leaves him just Banner. It jumps on
Convenient.
Thor, and then you have Thor venom, and it just keeps escalating this crazy bullshit.
See, I don't know. I would think that Thor to Hulk would be the escalation, but you know.
Well, you know, it went from to a god. I mean,
But Hulk.
eh,
You know, Thor may actually be a god, but Hulk is
strongest.
Hulk is
there
strongest there is. He's if Hulk is stronger than Hercules, then he is officially a god. I'm sorry.
So it jumps onto them, and eventually the Fantastic Four show up. Of course,
Like they do.
Reed Richards shows up with his device,
motherfucking supervillain in disguise, Richards.
and then he turns out like, okay, we can kind of try and get the symbiote off with this thing, and then Black Cat straight up takes the beam, kills the symbiote, and is like, F this, you basically killed Parker, I'm done, I'm out.
Good old Black Cat.
Yeah.
You know, they don't write Felicia well often, but when they do,
Yeah, no, I was like, no, F this weird alien goo, I'm killing it.
you get a medal.
Gold stuff.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that being an introduction to comics as a kid
Yeah.
blew my mind, because you have all of this crazy stuff happening, and, you know, I know who all of these people are. Like,
Right.
I know who Spider-Man is,
Of
and the
course.
Hulk and Thor, and just seeing them get messed up completely was like, wow, I didn't think you could do this in comic book. I'll do one more.
All right. 4.
4. What hero or comic has overstayed their welcome?
Ooh.
Who's been around too long, or has just stopped being relevant to the point where they need to go?
See, now, this is a hard one, because heroes that have been around forever, you can usually rehabilitate by bringing in a new version of that hero. So So it's hard for me, because I want to take this hardcore. Which hero do we need to get rid of? If I had to say one particular hero that is just overstayed the welcome, doesn't really work anymore, I would actually take the whole archetype of winged humanoid. Angel, Hawkman, they're boring. Wings are feeble. Like, you can do the Archangel thing where he's got the big metallic wings and it shouldn't work, but it's comics, so we don't care. Winged humanoids is like, yes, okay, it's angelic, I'm bored. It's just boring. Like, the best thing I've seen them do
in a
with
universe where you've got people that just are flying all
Right.
the time anyway.
Right. I mean, you know, if you've just... Superman's flying, Wonder Woman's flying, lanterns can fly because they're lanterns. You know, who's not flying? You know, Batman.
Because he's Batman.
Well, okay, he's got a bat plane because he's Bruce goddamn Wayne.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got wings. That's lovely.
Well, I think I'm with you. I'm on board with that for ones that's what they have.
Right.
Like, when you're talking about, like, Angel or
Yeah.
Hawkman or anything where it's like, what is your power? My power is wings.
Yeah.
Like, that's my deal. That's all I've got.
Yeah.
Now, when that's all you've got, it's... You didn't really win the power lottery
Yeah,
at that point.
you were talking about Heroes Unlimited in your podcast.
Yeah.
You know, you rolled winged flight and clock manipulation.
Well,
good job.
Yeah, I mean, in the game,
you know,
winged flight is one minor superpower.
Yeah.
Which means it is literally impossible in that game to have that be the only thing you have.
Right.
And so a hero that's all they have.
It's just pathetic.
Yeah.
You know, although if you do have both winged flight and clock manipulation, you could really be quite useful being sort of the roving bomb squad of the setting. You know, there's a time bomb over here. No, there's not. It's fine.
Oh God, who do I want to get rid of?
Get rid of somebody major. Do it. Make
Who
it
has
happen.
overstayed their welcome? Honestly,
Yeah.
honestly, I kind of wish Superman was still dead. I
You
wish
know-
that they had killed him and he was done.
Okay, Bruce. No, like, you know, you get that ice burn where it's like, you know, the last time you inspired anyone was when you were dead. And it was like, ooh, that's an ice burn, but fuck if it isn't true. And, you know, Superman is more interesting when he's in an Elseworld than he is in Superman. You know, when he's Apollo, when he's, you know, a Viltrumite, when he's whatever, he's way more interesting. Superboy, kind of interesting, because he's not in his power. It's like, you know, I like the idea of, specifically Con-El, Superboy is good. Not Superboy Prime, let's not ever speak of that again.
Well, Superboy Prime is basically just Silver Age Superman.
Yeah, no.
Back when Superman was even more ridiculous than he is now.
He's Silver Age Superman who reads nothing but Wildstorm comics.
I think the main issue I have with Superman
Right.
is he, at this point, only works as either I'm an inspiring thing,
Right.
or we need someone to wreck downtown.
Right.
And I think the problem I have with Superman is he's just too much.
Yeah.
It would be like if you had an entire series that just followed, like, Galactus or
Right.
Darkseid around. It's great for a miniseries.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome.
No, Galactus' miniseries was fantastic.
Yeah, you have this being of unimaginable power, and you get this glimpse into, okay, what's life like for a being that's
Right.
completely insane. You can't fathom what
Right.
it would be like to be them.
Right.
But with Superman, you have years and years and years
Yeah.
of comics and stories about this character that has
Yeah.
infathomable power.
And they've really...
And we've plumbed that depth. We
Yeah.
don't need it anymore.
Yeah, it's to the point where you have to write an interesting Superman story, all you can do is challenge him emotionally.
Yeah, you know, you can go, what are we writing? We're really writing a Clark Kent story, not a
Which,
Superman story.
you know, you can do, and that's fine, and some people will enjoy that. I would even probably enjoy that. However, fundamentally, you really have run out of particularly good ideas for Superman in comic books. You can still make good Superman movies if you take all the good ideas over those 70 years, and actually were trying to make something out of them, but they haven't done that in the past 30 years.
But
so
instead, they made Man of Steel, and fuck Man of Steel.
Amen.
All right, and on that note, I think we are going to conclude this show. Thank you very much for joining me.
Of course, anytime you want to rant about superheroes, I am full of opinions.
All right, and we will see you next time on Afterthought. And be sure to check out the podcast that this goes along with. There are links to that down below. And there will be links to the podcast's Twitter, my Twitter. If you want to send me stupid things, ask me questions, something you want me to talk about or see on the podcast, go ahead and let us know. Until next time, goodbye.